Okay. So, thank you for allowing me to come and talk to you about my essay.
Of course.
I think I have everything I need. I've given you a copy of the essay. I have a
Mhm.
copy of the essay myself. I have the rubric that we handed out in class that kind of just tells me what I need to be focusing on
Okay.
for this draft. This is draft one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have just some paper, just figuring that I might need to take notes, and I don't know if all my notes are going to fit
Okay.
on my essay itself.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just take it chunk by chunk and sort of read it out loud
Mm-hmm.
and talk to you about what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Because I kind of like how it is, but I also don't think it's exactly where I want it yet. And I
Okay.
can tell you specifically the places where I'm not sure. And then
Okay.
maybe you can kind of walk me through ideas that you might have about it.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good.
All right. So I'm going to start with the introduction. And I'm looking at the rubric, and it says introduction is 3 points, hooks the reader,
Mhm.
uses one of the techniques we have learned. And it says broad to narrow, narrow to broad, or contrast, which my students call JK. Which I think is perfect.
That is perfect.
Okay, so let's see. I'm going to read it. I think and then we'll talk about what I might be doing
Okay.
with my intro. As of this moment, there are 7,002. No, that's not right at all. 7,268,741,350 people living on planet Earth. This number increases by the second. As a species, we are populating the planet out of its resources. In our lifetimes, food and water will become scarcer, other material commodities will become more expensive and harder to acquire, and our lives will continue to be impacted by the explosion of human beings across the globe. At the same time, science is helping us stave off disease, live longer, and postpone death. The result is profound overcrowding. There are very few places on Earth where we can go to escape each other. We rub elbows in the grocery stores, sit in our cars for hours in traffic, and wait on lines for everything we need. There are places on Earth where human population density is more than 100,000 people per square mile. I couldn't believe that
That's
when I read
crazy.
that. Actually, you know what? I should probably cite that. Because I got that I didn't make that up. I got that from a source.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a note for myself to cite that. What will we do when we no longer have space from each other? What will we do when there is nowhere to go to be alone? We are seeking the answers to these questions, and in fact, we have found an answer through technology. Technology, specifically the portable kind we take with us everywhere we go, is our solution for the emotional strain of the global population explosion. As a result of overcrowding caused by industrialization and life-extending medical advances, the human race has migrated to living our lives online in response to a deep, unfulfilled desire to be alone and have personal space.
I love it.
So that's where I'm going to stop for a minute.
Okay.
And I think if I'm looking at introductions,
Mhm.
I think I'm trying to have a hook with that first line about
Yeah.
the number of people on the planet.
I think that's a great hook
Okay.
because it's startling and effective and a huge number.
It's a huge number. Actually, I just read that there's supposed to be, like, in the next few years, it's going to go up by 2 billion. So there's going to be
Jeez.
there's like 9 billion people on the planet
Man.
pretty
Okay.
soon here.
So I think that's powerful. Like that's one of your techniques for grabbing a reader is using a startling statistic. So,
Okay, all
check.
right, good. Check. All right, so, and then in terms of introduction technique, I think I'm using narrow to broad. Because I'm
Okay.
starting with some small point,
Okay.
which is like there's this many people on the
Sweet
planet.
people.
And that's just a tiny detail.
Mhm.
And then I try to move out to my point, which is,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, like there's so many people and we live longer and we need to be alone and we can't be alone.
That's
Is that-
interesting because I thought it was broad to narrow.
Ah.
Like, there's so many people on the planet, and because there's so many people, you're getting more and more focused on the issue. Like, there's a lot of people. Because there's a lot of people, we use up all of our resources. Because we use up all of our resources, and then at the same time, big point, because we can live longer, there's more and more people, and it just starts focusing in on the actual part of the problem, which isn't there's
I see.
billions of people, but
I
that
see.
we can't be alone. But I suppose it could be either way.
Yeah, maybe it could be either way, but I see what you're saying. That makes
Mhm.
sense too. And honestly, I guess it's okay if we aren't sure whether it's broad to narrow or narrow to broad, as long
Because
as
it's doing one or the other.
doing one or the other,
Mhm.
and it's also introducing the topic
Yes.
in a way that allows the reader to kind of ease into the
Mhm.
thesis.
Right.
So you think that's
I do. I think it
okay.
works. And I see kind of cause and effect as well. Like, here's this thing that happened, and here's the result of this thing. Here's this
Okay.
other thing that happened, and here's the result of this thing.
Ah.
And then because of those two, there's these causes. Here are the effects of those causes, and then the result of that, the consequence of those effects, are this need to have personal space and be alone.
Understood. Okay.
Ah.
All right. Good. Good.
Cool.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna, with the exception of that one thing, I want to cite my. Well, maybe I should cite this one too about how many people there are on the planet.
And
So
what
maybe those
about
are the two things. Go ahead.
In our lifetime, food and water will become scarcer, other material commodities, because that could either be an assumption
Right.
or a fact.
Or a fact.
And if it is a fact, like if someone's already predicted that because of this huge population boom, these things will happen,
Yeah.
that might be interesting to cite as well.
That's a really good point.
Some people might have a more optimistic view of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that I
okay.
do, but
All right. So if I'm not just taking that from
Mhm.
you know, like nowhere, if I have someone to back that up with
or
me,
if you don't, then
I
maybe
could-
make it a little more.
but I could establish some logos
Yeah.
maybe if I
Mhm.
have something to back that up.
Yep. And some
Okay.
credibility. You're going to
Some
get someone else
ethos.
to kind of stand on your side with you.
Okay.
Researchers at Harvard
Ah.
maintain that we're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
populate the planet out of its resources, and then it's not just you. It's
Mhm.
hey, look who's standing up here with me. You know,
I
the
love it.
the
Okay.
big guys at Harvard or something.
Fabulous. Do you think it's okay to have all these citations just in my introduction?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see it all the time.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Can we look at the thesis?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm calling a thesis, and I'm supposed to have it at the end. I want to have it at the end.
Mhm.
We had some talk about that in my class, and
Yeah.
overall, people were saying, "Well, it's okay if it's somewhere in the introduction, but I'd like it at the end just so I can anchor it down,
Mhm.
and that's the last thing you see before you go into the body." I think that can be
Yes.
effective just for the reader to know what your point is. So
Yes.
I have mine. What I think I have is mine at the bottom of my intro,
Mhm.
and it says technology, specifically the portable kind we take with us everywhere we go,
Mm-hmm.
is our solution for the emotional strain of global population explosion. As a result of overcrowding caused by industrialization and life-extending medical advances, the human race has migrated to living our lives online in response to deep, unfulfilled desire to be alone and have personal space. So, first of all, I need to make sure it's a claim.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because a reasonable person could disagree with it, right? That's the whole idea behind a claim. Someone
Yeah.
could say, no, that's not why. And so as long
Uh-huh.
as someone reasonable could disagree, you've made a claim.
Yeah, right.
That's
I mean,
debatable.
I don't think that Sherry Turkle would agree. I don't think that
Yeah.
Nicholas Carr would agree. So
Mhm.
I guess it's debatable. So that's good.
I wonder if it says technology, specifically the portable kind we take with us everywhere we go, is our
Mhm.
solution to the emotional strain of the global population explosion. And then you talk about overcrowding in the next part,
Yes.
but I wonder if the emotional strain is connected to both population explosion and overcrowding. Or is overcrowding and population explosion all the same thing? Or maybe I'm thinking about the life extending part.
I
Because
hear
the
you.
global population explosion isn't necessarily related to the life extending medical advances.
But isn't it part of the global population explosion? Like, 'cause
It might be,
if you have
right?
more people,
They're going to get smarter and they're going to figure out how to keep us alive longer.
no,
No.
there's gonna be more people.
Oh, more people.
You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Right. It's also just that there's more people and that they're living longer.
And they're living longer. Maybe I can make that clearer though.
No, I think I know what you're saying. And because you've got it in the second half, I get it. It's right there.
Yeah. Okay.
But at first I was
Well-
like, oh, we're only going to talk about global population explosion. And then when I got to the rest of it, I'm like, oh, no, we're also talking about life extension, like that we live longer. Not only are there more of us, but we live longer.
Yeah. Okay. I hear what you're saying. I think I
Mhm.
might
That might be
review
hard to
my
do that.
thesis a little bit and just see if I can make it clear that we're not talking about three things: population
Mhm.
explosion, overcrowding, and life extending advances, but we're actually talking about
The emotional strain of all of
of
those.
all those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And somehow
Mhm.
make that clearer. I like it.
But
Okay.
otherwise it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense the way it is.
Okay, and the subject is the subject or the topic of the
Mhm.
essay clear? What's the topic? Technology, right?
Technology, right.
Okay, so I
Mhm.
have that there. And then the significance is the rest of it, right?
Right, all the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
That we're stressed out.
We're stressed out because, and our solution to that is that we have to
Mhm.
carry,
We have to escape.
space with us at all
Yeah.
times. Okay,
Oh, it's so good.
okay, cool. So now the next thing is I'm supposed to look at the body paragraphs
Mhm.
and things that I'm supposed to keep in mind are topic sentences, transitions.
Okay.
So I'm going to read each one, if that's okay.
Sure.
And we'll go through and kind of look at it together.
Okay.
In order to fully understand the major shifts in our culture that have led us to seek out solace and solitude in our virtual worlds, we need only to consider recent human history and how small our world has become. What I'm trying to do there is
Mhm.
that in order to fully understand is I'm trying to link it. So that's
Link
my
it, yep.
transition from my thesis to my, does that make sense?
It's perfect.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's stop here. Were we to continue, We would go through each paragraph and check for things like topic sentences, and that's honestly something I think I need to work on, because I think there are a few places I don't have clear topic sentences.
Okay.
And making sure I transition well from topic to topic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd be running the show because it's my paper, but I'd be
Okay.
asking you, like we just did,
Okay.
sort of like what I could do or where I think I might need help.
That makes sense.
Okay,
Makes
awesome.
me feel useful.
Okay, so here's where we stop, and we're going to pick it up in a minute.